I'm always gonna love you too.
Expecto Patronum!
Not quite my tempo. It's all good. No worries. Here we go.
Assemble.
I'm vengeance.
How is it going, everybody? And welcome in to episode 1 of season 2 of the Finatic Film Review Podcast, a place where a film fanatic sits and talks about film and TV and entertainment and all of that good stuff. Welcome into season 2. Now, people are going to be confused. All you people on the YouTube world, let me adjust my Batman Funko Pop. A lot of you are going to be confused. You're going to say, Jack, what are you talking about, season 2? This is the first time that you are putting this new rendition of your podcast on YouTube. Well, that's true, but if you are a loyal follower, you know that all last year, well, all second half of last year, I was posting podcast episodes audio only. The link's always been in the description for you guys to go check that out. So we have been posting on audio, Apple, Spotify, all the places you get podcasts. We've been doing that. So this should not come as a big surprise to all of the loyal listeners, and I appreciate you all. We had some great guests. We did some awesome reviews. We had Chris from Filmstock on there a few times. We had Sasha on there. Jennifer was there to do Eternals. We had some really awesome guests. And I'm hoping to get more great guests on season 2. This is a new iteration of the podcast. And basically, I got my show notes here on my notebook. That's what's on the desk here with me. I just kind of want to update and kind of tell you all what's going on, because this is still on audio. And if you're one of the loyal audio listeners, y'all are real ones, and y'all are awesome. Make sure you rate, review, and subscribe. But kind of the biggest announcement is that I am now doing it in video form as well. Now, this is kind of a beta kind of first episode. I have thoughts. Do I make a separate channel for the podcast? Do I do it strictly here on this channel? I'm not sure yet. I would like to just do it on this channel, because that's more content for you guys. That it won't be in place of the content that I'm already making. This will go on a different day and be, more content for you guys. So playing around with it, not sure yet. This is kind of a testing kind of ground to see if this is something that you guys want on the channel. A lot of what it's going to be is, and if you guys listen to the podcast, a lot of what this is kind of follow-ups to the reviews I do on Fridays. So I do my spoiler-free reviews on Fridays for movies, and then the next week I do a spoiler-filled discussion on the podcast. That's kind of what the vessel that the podcast is. So like today, we're talking about the Batman, and I'm very excited to talk about the Batman. This film is just absolutely incredible. And if you're on video, you can see that on this shelf, I have a shrine to the Batman with just Batman memorabilia, Funko Pops, action figures. And then I also have a Batman pop on my desk right here with me as well. I love that movie so much. I've already seen it twice at the time of recording this, and I have plans to see it at least 2 more times and potentially a third, so I can break my record of most in a theater. But that's kind of what this podcast is. This podcast is a vessel for me to go more in depth on the films I watched the week before and to get more spoiler filled. The thing I like about the podcast is I've always made it the rule that it is anything can be out there. This is spoiler filled territory. This is not spoiler free. Like, this is discussion, spoiler filled. That's what this is. So just so you guys know, like, that's what the podcast is spoiler filled. We're talking about all the plot points, all the details, all the things I really like about or don't like about certain films, and that is what it is. So basically what I'm toying with right now is having this go out on Mondays. Originally, the podcast went out on Wednesday, so this is also an announcement for the podcast listeners on audio. The podcast was going out on Wednesdays, but now I'm thinking Monday because it makes sense, because by Wednesday, we're already into what's coming out this next week. We've already passed what came out the week before, whereas Monday, it's still fresh. The weekend's over. Everyone has gone out and seen the movie by now. Let's get into spoiler discussions on Monday. That's kind of what I want to toy with this. So that's kind of the first thing. I'll also say this, because people that listened last year know. There were times when I was inconsistent. I didn't always film the podcast, and there were weeks that would go by where there was not a podcast episode. My hope is that I can make this more consistent this year. And there are some things I'm about to announce that I'm hoping will help with that. But I'm not going to promise anything, because if there's one thing I've learned in over 7 years of YouTube is do not promise, because then if you don't hold up your end of the bargain, then you feel like crap because you made a promise and you couldn't hold up that end of the bargain. That's one thing I have learned in my 7+ years on YouTube is do not promise anything if you do not know that you can absolutely fulfill it. So I'm not going to promise that it's going to be every single Monday without fail. I want that to happen. That's kind of was one of my New Year's resolutions for content, was to really push the podcast further. So that's the hope for now, but we'll see. But with the next, and this is kind of the final announcement for this episode, I have a series that we're starting, and it's one that I'm very excited to do because I've always wanted to do this, and I think it is going to be a lot of fun, and I think we can get interactive and really go on this journey together. If you followed me on Twitter, you saw that over Christmas, I started a rewatch of the entirety of the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And basically what I want to do is review the MCU. That's what I want to do. I did that before Endgame. I did that in video form. That playlist is still on my channel. You can go watch. I reviewed every single movie in the MCU. But I did them in short form reviews like I do with any movie. What I want to do is I want to review the entire MCU, go in depth on the MCU, each long form reviews of each MCU film and series, now that series are coming out. So starting next week is going to be the first episode of that. We are going to dive into Iron Man. Next week is also the Atom Project and Turning Red. If one of those films knocks my socks off, then maybe I will pivot and we'll do an episode on one of those. But for now, the plan next week is to cover Iron Man as episode 1 of what I would like to call reviewing the MCU. So that's kind of the biggest announcement of this, besides the fact that I'm doing video now as well, is new series that we're going to do. It may take us forever, but we will get there eventually, is reviewing the entirety of the MCU in long form reviews. So I'm pushing for half an hour type reviews. And I would also like to get guests, kind of talk about these movies with guests. I think that'll probably be easier as we get to the back half, because those ones are easier and more familiar to people. I'm not going to ask people to go back and watch the older movies if they don't want to. So if any of my friends are watching and you have a specific movie in mind that you would like to potentially jump on the pod for, DM me and I'll put you down. Right now, I don't have anyone lined up for any. I'm doing Iron Man by myself next week, and then The Incredible Hulk probably, I think, 2 weeks later. So if there's a specific one you'd like to do, let me know, and we can record it whenever. We don't have to wait until months down the line. We can record it and I can just sit on it until it's that time. So it's very flexible. So that's kind of it. I went a little longer than I wanted to on the intro, but that's kind of where we sit right now. Very excited. Like I said, one of my New Year's resolutions this year for content was to push the podcast even further, and I think doing it in video form will help that. But also, I encourage you, if you go on a road trip or something like that, or you have like long commutes to work, go just listen to the podcast version. It's going to be the exact same thing as you see like here. It's going to be the exact same thing. So, go over there and listen to that. Like if you have long drives, like my commute. So I'm getting ready to move. We're going to get into some personal talk here for a second. I'm getting ready to move in about a month. Still in Dallas. Like I'm not going still in Dallas. So I'm not going anywhere. I'm just moving to a new apartment in Dallas, and it is significantly closer. And that is very excited about that. But like my commute now to work in the morning is like 45 minutes to an hour. So like I get the long commute, and I listen to podcasts, listen to the radio. So like I get the commute life. Like I get it. So, take the podcast with you. Like, if you don't want to watch the episode, you can't because you're driving. Like, take the podcast with you. That's why I love long drives, because you can listen to podcasts. So I highly recommend that. And the links for the audio will be down in the description. But yeah, okay. So that's all I have for updates. Went way longer than I thought. I budgeted 3 to 5 minutes. We are already 10, almost 11 minutes in. Today we were talking about the Batman. Again, video list watchers, you guys can I love this movie so much. We're gonna get deep into it. Full spoiler talk. But first, for audio listeners, what we're going to do is we are going to throw over to my review that aired on my YouTube channel this past Friday. So we are going to hop over there right now. And for video listeners, you are not going to see that because you saw it on Friday. That is purely just for audio listeners, and then I'm going to throw the audio listeners to my review that I posted on Friday. But there it is, my review of the Batman. I gave the Batman a 99 out of 100. And I have seen it since one other time. So when I did my review, I had only seen it once. I've seen it another time since I went Thursday night after. I'd seen it on Tuesday night, then I went and saw it Thursday night on opening night. So I've seen it twice now. So that I feel good about that. I'm glad that I'm doing more of my longer spoiler talk after seeing it twice. Because if I only would have done it once, I don't think I would have caught everything. And I still don't think I've caught everything because it's a long movie. There's a lot going on. But it's slow enough for you to kind of really follow a lot of the beats. And that's one of the things I really enjoy. So for first thing I want to do here is just some opening thoughts. You guys really heard kind of in the video review how I feel about this film. It is an incredible piece of art. We'll get more in depth about what Matt Reeves did and the writing and things of that nature, but just kind of blanket statement overall, I think that this is one of the most artistically driven pieces of comic book media that I think we've ever gotten. And I'm talking like comic book media, not just like movies, but like media. And I'm talking like visual or audio. I'm not talking comics, because comics are all works of art. It's stunning. And and second time around, it continued to stun me. How flawless so many aspects of this film are. Like just absolutely incredibly just knocked my freaking socks off how incredible so many of the aspects of this film are. Second time around, I tweeted this. I said was even better than the first. And I said it solidified this as being one of the greatest comic book movies of all time. And I truly believe that. I believed that on the first showing, that this is something special. This is a special film. But second time around really, really cemented that for me, because I was able to pay more attention to these small, subtle things, pay more attention to the dialogue and the meanings behind the writing. And I really, really enjoyed what I saw. And also on top of that, with those Thursday previews, I was able to read reviews of my colleagues and all of my friends that I follow in the film space and hear their point of views. And really, that's the thing I love about this space, is that you ebb and flow off of people and you take the ideas that they have and you're like, yes, I agree with that. I don't really agree with that, and things of that nature. So I see a lot of people talking about certain aspects of the film. I'm like, oh my God, I agree with that. That is so true. And they add to the ideas in my head that I already have. So I feel like I have a really great understanding of this film, and I'm very excited to dive into it even deeper. Like I said in the intro at the beginning, I have plans to see it at least 2 more times, potentially 3 more times before its theatrical run is up. So it's a pure work of art, and I really, really love what they did. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of this. So I give it a 99 out of 100. It's very, very hard for me to not give it 100. It's very hard. Because there are aspects, like there are things about the writing, and I'm going to get into the negatives first because there's a lot more positives, and then we'll get into spoilers. There are parts of the writing and the dialogue that I don't always love. And I've talked about this with some people at work, and I talked about it a little bit in my video review. Like when a film, and this is kind of how I work, this is kind of a little behind the scenes into my mind of how I work with films. When I am rating a film, and I'm like, okay, it's like a 98, 99 status. If it's in the ballpark of 100, then I re-examine it and I really get like nitpicky with it. I really nitpick it. So there are just some moments, some subtle moments, some dialogue choices in the writing that I'm like, I probably could have done without that, or I didn't really love the route that took. I took a point off for writing. Does not take away from the fact that I think this is a brilliantly written film. And my whole reason for going to see this so many times in theaters, one, because it is a cinematic treasure and this is an experience everyone should see in a theater, preferably Dolby Theater or an IMAX theater, because the sound design of this film is absolutely flippin' incredible. But the reason why I'm going to see it so many times is because I want to critique it to the bone to see if it is worthy of 100 out of 100 status, because this film is freaking special. I can already tell that this is a special film. And I'm going to critique it to the bone to make sure that it is not worthy of 100 of 100, because like I want to put it at 100 so bad. So bad. But I need to be sure. That's why I'm going to see it so many other times. But let's get into my thoughts. The performances are absolutely flawless. And I've been seeing some discourse on Twitter, of course on Twitter, why would it be anywhere else, about Pattinson's portrayal of Batman. Really mainly Bruce Wayne, actually. I think a lot of people kind of fall in the arena of he is a really good Batman. And I tend to believe, and I've mulled this over and thought about it, I think he might be my favorite. The only Batman I have not seen I have not seen Adam West, I have not seen George Clooney. I saw Val Kilmer today. I watched Batman Forever today. It was fine. I still have to get a rating for it. I haven't sat down to give my rating yet. What Pattinson does in this film is show the emotion and the wear that being Batman plays. The thing that I love about this portrayal of Batman in Gotham City and just the story overall is how worn down and beaten down everything feels. It's the overall feel of the film is tired, beaten down, worn down. It's always raining. It's always dark and cloudy and grit. Like it's got this exhausted kind of feel to it. And the thing that I love about Pattinson's performance is this is Batman in year 2. He's already been Batman for a year. I love that they went that route. I'm glad that it was not the cookie cutter origin story. Like we know Batman's origin story. He's been Batman for over a year, and you can tell that it is taking a physical and mental toll on him. So it adds to the tiredness, the exhaustion, the beaten down feeling of the film as a whole. And I think he portrayed that really brilliantly. Some people think it's corny. Some people think it's cheesy. I don't. I think it is very, very thoughtful, very intentional, and done incredibly well. Pattinson is an incredible Batman. He is an incredible Bruce Wayne. We didn't get the big billionaire playboy type Bruce Wayne that we are known for, but we'll get there. Like, let the man breathe and kind of, get through the dog days of year 2 of being the Batman. I thought he was fantastic. I think Zoe Kravitz as Selena Kyle, just flawless. I think she brings such humanity to the character and really shows that this is a character that is out for survival. She's not and this is something I've watched interviews, and this is something that Zoe Kravitz has actually said in her interviews, is that she likes how she is a badass. She is a badass. And the story revolves around like her survival and her kind of figuring out who she wants to be. She kind of has been, an orphan her entire life, and has issues with her father, and again, this is spoiler-filled territory, guys, like spoilers, you've been warned. Her father being this big crime mob boss and just kind of making her way up in the world and trying to survive and be a survivor and be this badass woman. And she has said how much she liked that. And I really, really like it. Brings so much humanity to her character, and I thought it was really, really well done. And she brought that with her performance. It was just absolutely stunning. Really love Jeffrey Wright as Gordon. I think, and I've seen a lot of people again on social media saying this, and I tend to agree. I think this is the best relationship with Gordon and Alfred. Gordon and Batman. Oh, I said Alfred. Andy Serkis, great as Alfred. I think this is the best relationship we've gotten, honestly, because they work a lot together in this film, and they work really well together, and they go, Jeffrey Wright and Pattinson, they work off of each other extremely well. Just so good. And I really, it felt like they had seen some shit. And that was really nice to see, because it showed, kind of the gritty nature of what they were doing and the trust that they had, even though they don't really know each other. And I really, really like that. We can't talk about performances without talking about our two antagonists. Colin Farrell as the Penguin is incredible. I mean, the makeup and prosthetics team, I mean, give them an Oscar. Do I think they'll get a nom? They might get a nom. Will they win? Probably not, because it's the Oscars, and we all know how that goes. I mean, he's unrecognizable. And not only that, like, makeup and prosthetics they can only go so far. Like, you gotta be the part, and he is incredible. Like, he's so good. His accent, like his like heavy, like kind of Italian, like New York kind of Italian accent, is so good. It's so good, and he brings such a great kind of, not gravitas, but kind of like, I don't even know how to explain it, but just kind of the vibe that he brings to the film is just second to none, and it's great. But Paul Dano is incredible. I mean, he is so creepy, so terrifying, without really doing much. It's the facial expressions, it's the way he talks, it's really the delivery of the lines that is so terrifying. You guys have seen some of that in the trailers, but like in the movie, it's very kind of like terrifying and like, oh my god, he's a creepy dude. He plays off of Pattinson's Batman so well. And the thing that I saw. God, I'm gonna hit myself because I don't remember who tweeted this. And if you're watching and you tweeted this, credit to you. I just don't remember off the top of my head. The villains never outshine Batman. And this is kind of the first instance where that's the case. Usually in these Batman movies, the villains are like the big bombast. Like I just watched Batman Returns today. You got Jim Carrey as the Riddler, and you got Two-Face, and they're like these big bombastic characters, and they're kind of leading the way, and Batman's just kind of like a side character. Whereas this is kind of a story of them all together working, flowing together with performances. I think that's a part of where the film really succeeds is it is how its performances ebb and flow together and really work together to a T, and just so incredibly done. Performances are awesome. Matt Reeves. What is there to say? I mean, it's direction-wise brilliant. I think the cinematography, Greg Fraser is a master at what he does. This is one of the most beautiful films I've seen in such a long time. This is the most beautiful comic book movie I've ever seen. I can tell you that much. But Reeves, and I talked about this in my video review. He crafted such a beautiful, brilliant world of Gotham. I love Gotham in this movie. It's a character in itself. It's kind of the first time it's really felt like that. It's not like, oh, this is obviously Pittsburgh. Oh, this is obviously Chicago. No, like this is Gotham. Gotham. And I loved it. I really freaking loved it. Just the character of Gotham itself. It's unlike a city that I've ever been in or seen or heard of. And just the overwhelming, the crime, but the fear that is running rampant around the city, and just so brilliantly done. The vibe, the ambiance is so incredible. And that's all credit to Reeves, because it's his vision. It's what he wanted. It's how he wanted to construct it. And if it's not for that vision, if it's not for that construction, we wouldn't have had that. I talk, it's like I'm beating a dead horse. It's like such a work. This movie is such a work of art, and that is really mainly credit to Reeves, because again, it's his vision. It is what he wanted to accomplish, and it is purely on him, and he did it to perfection. Composition of shots, creation of atmosphere, certain locations, the way, the very unique, and a lot of cinematography, like the very unique shots that we get, the car chase is one of the most brilliantly choreographed action scenes I've ever seen, because of the uniqueness of some of the shots. And there's a really great Twitter thread that I saw. I retweeted it. I quote tweeted it on my page, talking about that chase scene and how it was shot, and the different angles that were used, and how it was edited together and composed. And it was very fascinating to see, kind of how the Penguin always has his head over his shoulder, and he's always kind of running away, while the Batman is always going full steam ahead. He is the aggressor. And I really, that was very fascinating to me. And with the unique kind of POV shots, and the kind of, rear view, side mirror shots, and then, kind of the half in the car, half out of the car shots. Just so unique. You could have had the generic, just in front facing, kind of in the driver's seat shots, then you have exterior shots of the car driving, and edit it together, and there you go, you got a car chase. But the thing Reeves did so many times was these POV shots that I really loved, that made you like fully inserted you into the action of what was going on. And I really liked that decision making. There was also a lot of really wide over the head shots. We've seen a lot of those stills, all over Twitter and Instagram and stuff. Just bravo to Reeves and Greg Fraser and the team that did a lot of the cinematography and the shooting. It's just incredible. I'll also credit the sound design. I think the sound design in this film is to die for. There's a particular scene, this scene where the Batmobile is introduced. that has some of the most flawless and incredible and gripping sound design that I've ever heard, ever. And I'm a big fan of sound design, and Tenet, everyone crapped on Tenet's sound design, but I actually really liked it because it felt like you were being immersed into what was going on. And this film, while not going that route, because we still like to hear the dialogue, did it as much as you could, and had a very nice balance. Balance is key. Had a very, very nice balance. So credit to Reeves and all the technical people across the board. That was actually a note I had further down, is that the technical, it just in general, is so damn good. It's just, I gave the technical aspects just perfect grades. It got 15 out of 15 points. It just flawless execution on the technical. The writing, incredibly well crafted. I already went into the negatives at the beginning. It's very nitpicky. I think the writing overall is very, very profound. I think it's very well composed. The pacing, this is perfectly paced film. I never felt out of it. I never felt like, come on, let's get moving. There was never a scene. When a scene ended, it ended like when it needed to. It didn't linger on. It didn't go on for too long. It didn't go for too short. And the story continued to flow, and you were on the edge of your seat, and just very extremely compelling stuff that I really, really enjoyed. We've kind of already gotten into a lot of this with the other aspects, but Gotham is a city. The concepts of fear and paranoia. I think the opening sequence of this film. So there's an opening sequence, and then there's the opening sequence. The opening sequence is, and again, guys, spoilers, this is a spoiler podcast, so what it is. The opening sequence is the Riddler, killing the mayor and duct taping him up. And then you have like the opening sequence where we're introduced to the Batman. And that opening sequence where we're introduced to the Batman and kind of the city of Gotham is one of the most incredible exposition kind of dumps, but really not, because really what it is it's not giving exposition. Like it feels like it is, but it's not. Really what it's just trying to do is set the tone and set the atmosphere of what this film is going to be. And a brilliant part of it is that at the beginning of this film, Batman is seen as vengeance. And a lot of his, what I'll call brand, is fear. And he says the line at the beginning. He says, when that light goes up in the sky, it's not a signal, it's a warning. And the way that, they do the score and kind of work all of that in without ever seeing Batman, might I add, is incredible. And it set the tone from the start, and I really, really loved that. And then, of course, we get the really awesome subway fight scene, which is just incredible. That's where we get the I'm Vengeance line. Just great. And Batman's arc throughout the movie, I think, is amazing as well. I hinted to it a little bit. Like, when they set the tone at the beginning of the movie, he is vengeance. He is out to avenge, and protect the people that are unable to protect themselves. And his whole brand, like I said, is fear. The criminals fear him. That's why they, don't commit as many crimes, is because they fear the Batman coming to get them. Whereas by the end of the movie, when we have that moment in the finale where one of the Riddler's minions says that he's vengeance, that is kind of a spark moment for Batman to realize, look, people think they're doing the right thing, but they really aren't. And in the end, when we get the final closing kind of monologue from Bruce Wayne and Batman, he says, I can't be vengeance. I need to be something more. I need to be something greater. I need to be a hero. He cannot just be vengeance. He cannot just be a masked vigilante. He needs to be a hero. He needs to be a beacon of hope, not fear. And I think, and that is me definitely kind of oversimplifying his arc, just from the beginning and the end. There's obviously moments throughout the movie where he has changed and shaped and formed, but those are the two moments, where we get the beginning and then we have the conclusion. I think that that's extremely well crafted, as well as Selena Kyle's arc is very well crafted as well as like the mystery. This is a mystery movie. You know, Batman's the world's greatest detective. This is him doing detective work. It is not a fast-paced action movie. It's got great action sequences. I'm not going to say it doesn't, but this is a story and mystery first film, and then action second, which I liked. And I'm a sucker for a mystery or true crime. Like, I'm a sucker for stuff like that. So I really enjoyed that. Like, I got a kick out of it and thought it was really, really compelling and really awesome. It's great. So the writing overall, I think, is pretty flawless. Have a few nitpicks, but it is what it is. I still gave it a 99 out of 100, which is, one of the best movies I've ever seen ever. I don't give movie just throw around 99s. It just doesn't happen. The score, Michael Giacchino. I've been blasting the score in my car, at home. Like, I've just been blasting the score. I saw a really funny video today. I'm sure a lot of people have seen this video of the news reporter sitting at the news desk and just going to the theme. And I'm like, yes, I feel that. That is how I feel whenever I listen to that Batman theme. It just feels so powerful and just so bold, and it's just great. So shout out to Michael Giacchino for producing just and composing just an incredible score. One of the best scores I've heard in a long time. This, I believe, is one of the greatest comic book movies of all time, in my opinion. I redid my list on Letterboxd. It's up on Letterboxd. I'm thinking about doing a video, not entirely sure, but it is up on Letterboxd, so you guys can go see if you want. I redid my list of top 10 favorite comic book movies of all time, and this fell at number 2, behind Endgame. And Endgame for me is it's partially because I think it's a brilliant movie, but it is also kind of nostalgic, and it's also my love for the MCU, and it's also fan service. Whereas the Batman is purely and solely just a brilliantly done movie. So take that how you will. I think quality-wise, the Batman's probably better, so it might probably would land at number 1, but Endgame is Endgame, and I will love that movie forever. I think it's fantastic. I think it's one of the greatest comic book movies of all time. I think it is bordering on one of my favorite movies of all time. We will figure that out as I get closer to locking my list for the year of my top 100 favorite movies of all time. But yeah, just incredible. Let's get into spoilers, shall we? I got into some spoilers while I was giving my general review, but now is Spoiler City. Spoiler City. Okay, my favorite moment of the movie. It's the Batmobile entrance. It's the Batmobile reveal. A lot of people have been talking about this on Twitter and on social media. It is incredible when the Batmobile first revs up and starts up. Just that 30-second sequence of the Batmobile starting up, revving up is, I don't want to say this because people say this all the time, but I genuinely think it might be 30 seconds of the best filmmaking and tension building and emotion building that I've ever seen in a movie. Call me crazy, but I genuinely believe that. I think it is some of the most flawless and incredible 30 seconds of filmmaking I've ever seen in my life. I don't want to say it, but it's just I have not been able to get that 30-second sequence out of my head since I saw it the first time. And then when I went to see the movie the second time, I was anxiously waiting for that to happen. First time I saw it in Dolby IMAX, and my seat shook, which was awesome. I'm taking my mom to see it in a few weeks. She loves the mystery stuff, and she's a big movie junkie as well. I'm taking her to go see this, and we are going to go see it in the same theater I saw it originally, in the Dolby IMAX theater, and my Lord, buckle the hell up. That was an experience when that happened, and I just loved that. My favorite part of the movie is that, and then I already went in depth on the chase scene a few minutes ago, but then that tees into the chase scene, which is just incredible. That is the best Batmobile I don't think there will be any debate about that. Like, I don't think there will be. I haven't seen much debate about that on Twitter yet. But it is. I think that's the best Batmobile we've ever gotten. It's freaking sick. How do I get one? Like, someone let me know. Like, obviously I wouldn't be able to afford it, but like, how do I get one? I'll trade in my Batmobile. Like, I think I got a pretty sick Batmobile right now. Like, I'll trade in my Batmobile for that Batmobile. Just incredible filmmaking. Like, I love that moment. It's like 30 of the best seconds of filmmaking I've ever seen in my life. It is. Like, I'm tearing up right now. It's just so good. It's so good. We already touched on the mystery. I really love the mystery of the story. We touched on the ending already. Barry Corrigan makes his much anticipated appearance in this movie. We were all like, oh, is Barry Corrigan going to be here as the Joker? What's going on? Ooh. He makes his appearance at the end of the movie. He's in a cell where the Riddler is. People were split because they were like, is he the Joker? Is he Two-Face? Because you can't really see his face. It's kind of a silhouette in the movie, but you can kind of see like his face is kind of burned and charred, it looks like. Was he the Joker? Is he Two-Face? Who is he? Matt Reeves has come out and talked about it. He is the Joker. Matt Reeves has confirmed that in an article, I believe with IGN, in an interview with IGN, if I remember correctly. So he has confirmed that he is the Joker. Sounded great. We didn't really see him. He sounded great. I'm very excited. And overall, I'm just excited to get back into this world because it's great Batman movie. But like the thing that I'm so complimentary about and the thing that I love so much about this movie, and I kind of touched on this earlier with like Matt Reeves' vision, is just like the world that he created of Gotham. Like, this world is so rich and there's so much opportunity. We are getting a Penguin series, which we already know. We are getting a Gotham City PD series, which we already know about. And then there was technically announced, but like not really, like we're getting an Arkham Asylum series, which we already know. And then obviously we're going to get another Batman movie, which someone said isn't going to come for like 5 years. Yeah, let's fast track that, please. Like, I'm ready to see more into this world because I think what Reeves set up in the first movie with the world in general is just incredible. It's an achievement. I mean, it really is. Like, now I'm going to say this and then people are going to be angrily in the comments or tweeting me, giving me examples, but like, name a better movie that has set up a better atmosphere than this movie. And I'm not talking, and let me also phrase this, fictional world. Because you can set the atmosphere of New York or set the atmosphere of LA. Like, that's already there. Like, fictional world. Name a better movie to do that. I do not think you can find a better movie than this one at doing that. Name it. Let me know. I'd love to know. But guys, that's, I think, where I'm going to end it. I love this movie. I could talk about it for days. Like I said, I'm planning on probably going to see it 3 more times. 3 more times. If I see it 3 more times, it will break my record for most times seeing a movie in a theater. I saw Tenet 4 times in a theater. Broke that record in 2020. So if I see it 5 times, that'll break the record. I've already seen it twice. I'm going to go see it with my mom. That's 3 times. I have a ticket to go see it next weekend. That's 4. So I'm going to have to find a 5th time to go see it. But go down in the comments if you're watching on YouTube, and then tweet me if you are listening to the podcast on audio form. What did you think of the Batman? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let me know why. Let's talk about it down in the comments. I've been getting better at answering comments on YouTube, which was another one of my New Year's resolutions that I'm now starting in March. But let me know. Let me know what you thought. I'd love to hear from you. Let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation. If you are listening on podcast, you can tweet me at Jack Lauderay. That will also be in the description of the podcast, the link to my Twitter. And yeah, thank you guys. Started off the year hot, had a really great January, pretty good February, and now we're into the beginning of March. So let's keep it going. Let's keep it hot. My most anticipated movie of the year is already passed, so let's just pack it up for the rest of the year. I'm joking. We got a lot of great movies coming out the rest of the year. I think we got a really awesome slate for the rest of the year, which I'm very excited about. Oscars are coming up. We'll be talking about that on the pod, I'm sure, a little bit. Yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. Thank you all so much for watching episode 1. If you watched episode 1, or if you are a loyal listener, thank you for listening. If you are listening, rate, review, subscribe, and leave a review. Do a written review, because that is what helps the algorithm for like Apple and stuff the most. If you're listening on Apple, leave a written review, because that helps the algorithm. If you want to help the podcast grow, leave a written review. I really appreciate you guys. And then if you're on YouTube, please subscribe if you have not already. Really appreciate it. That is pretty much it. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see you in the next episode.